Good afternoon. It is 3 minutes past 3. Louise Holland, Friday's afternoon show. Now, normally at this point after the news, we go into a musical banger, but I've got a different kind of absolute star now for you. One of the two best people, I'm not going to rank, but one of the two best people to come out of Burnley has very kindly agreed to squeeze us in today to talk about bank closures. More than 6,000 branches across the UK have closed in the last 10 years. Has yours? Because we know now that more and more banking hubs are popping up. Do you fancy one? Have you got one in your town or village? Someone who's been breaking the banking mould for over 10 years now is Dave Fishwick. He set up Burnley Savings and Loans, aka Netflix star, the Bank of Dave. Dave, I am thrilled to have you on. Thank you for squeezing us in.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Louise. I mean, I'm number 2, you're number 1 from Burnley. You're the centre of the universe. How wonderful to speak to you.
Well, it's great to see you, because I remember when the Bank of Dave set up and it was just groundbreaking, but it feels like banking's going backwards. What's going on, Dave?
That's scary, isn't it? I mean, we've got 54 banks every month closing. That's one this morning and one this afternoon. And that carries on till there's none left. You've got over 15,000 free-to-use cash machines that's gone. That's over half of them. You've got over 100 post offices due to close down. Now, they are opening some banking hubs. I am looking into the banking hubs. I would love to hear from anybody that's had good or bad experiences from the banking hub. They can send a tweet to me at Fishwick David, or they can send a letter to Burnley Savings and Loans. And I'd like to see what people think. What I'm finding is the high street shuts down if the last bank leaves.
Let's talk about the hubs, though, because they are a really clever way, it seems, to get round this. But if, you're in a town, Burnley's a town centre, but if you're living on the outskirts of any town, rural transport, we know is such a struggle. You might not have a car. There's also the aspect of digital exclusion as well, so the hubs aren't going to work for everybody.
You're absolutely right, and that's a really good way of putting it. I mean, in Colne is where my HQ is for the minibus sales, and we've asked for a banking hub. We lost our last bank week before last, and we've asked for a banking hub. There's 22,571 people live in Colne. There's over 250 businesses, and the train, when it gets to Colne, as you know, it stops. It doesn't go any further. So anybody that needs to go to a bank, I mean, the one that's just shut is Santander. It's 14 miles to Keighley, or it's 7 miles to Burnley if you want to go to a Santander. Now the last one's shut. We just need to try and keep one bank open.
I rewatched Bank of Dave a couple of weeks ago because I realised I hadn't seen the second one, and I was watching it and I wondered why the Bank of Dave's never been franchised. It stayed where it is on the high street in Burnley, and I wonder if that's something you've ever considered.
Well, do you know what? I get asked a lot about that. But what we do is we sort of use what the big banks use. Is we've got technology as well. So we can help people all over the country get mortgages and business loans. We also help people locally, and we use our own money locally to be able to lend out locally. So we've lent out over £40 million locally over the last 14 years since we've been open. And we help people with the profit that we earn. I feed 650 children every morning. I put libraries in schools. I'd love to see that rolled out. If we could have community banks run by the community to benefit the community rather than the bonus culture. But every time we try and make it happen is somebody from the big organisations, the big banks, just don't want it. They dislike me with a passion. But the feeling's mutual.
You need to get Def Leppard on it. So last time we saw you on Netflix, you were taking on the loan sharks, and you went on this morning. Well, I suppose it was Rory Kinnear. But you went on this morning and asked for input. You want our input again. So you mentioned how we get in touch with you on social media. Is there another way we can contact you? You mentioned Burnley Savings and Loans, if we've got any thoughts on banking hubs, because that's your next project, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'm looking at not just banking hubs, I'm looking at the credit unions. I love credit unions, but unfortunately, there's less than 300 of them in the country. Now, when you're closing thousands and thousands of banks, you need more than a few hundred institutions that's going to help people. So I'd love to hear from anybody that's had a good experience or a bad experience from anywhere that they've tried to borrow money from other than a bank, or they've had course to go to a bank hub and just what do they think? What's good about it, what's bad about it, and let me see if I can really try and change some things, because we just need somebody to stay open on the high street. We've got lots of people who are super, super good on technology, and we do need online. But not everybody can do that. My mum's 78-year-old. She's got the onset of dementia. She needs to speak to somebody. Yeah. There's 1.5 million people every day still use cash. And that's the problem, Louise. We just need to remember why banks were there in the first place, to serve the public. We don't need as many as we had before, but we at least need one in each town.
Can I give you some fan mail, Dave, before I let you go for the weekend? This is from Aaron in Norwich. He says, Dave Fishwick is a great champion of the underdog and the ordinary person. I don't know if it'll come up in your interview, Lou, but lots of people think that financial education isn't taught in schools. It's not statutory like relationship and sex ed, but it is part of the PSHE programme. We do a lot of this in my school around money management and the pitfalls of credit cards and debt. Tulsa says, it's great to hear that the legend that is Dave Fishwick's on the show. I'll never forget when he reported for This Morning on the Pencil Museum in Keswick. I've never seen anyone more enthusiastic about pencils in my life. His boundless joy is infectious and the world needs more people like Dave in it. Mikey says, I wish I could shake Dave's hands. He's just what we need to upset the corporate apple cart. I've worked in financial services for 30 years. The system has unbelievable double standards. You can't trust them to even give you their own published criteria. Mikey says that one. So there'll be lots of people getting in touch with you, Dave. I hope that's a good start for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And it's wonderful to hear from you listeners. I mean, I love going to, like the Pencil Factory, I love going to see businesses, traditional businesses still running. It's not all about technology, but we do need technology. But I'd love to hear from anybody that's got anything to say about the banking hubs or about anything to do with the high street banks closing.
Bank of Dave 3, I'd like to be in it. You had Graham Liver from BBC Radio Lancashire's Breakfast Show in Bank of Dave 2. That's the show that I started on 20 years ago. I'd like you to upgrade to me next time as a cameo.
That's definitely going to happen. That's on its way. We're going to get you in, Bank of Dave 3. And Louise. Graham's going to... We're living the dream.
Exactly, Graham's going to kill me. Dave, thank you for everything you do. You're a legend. We'll send any messages we get to you at the Bank of Dave. Thanks so much to the brilliant Dave Fishwick. So kind of him to squeeze us in this afternoon.